back to Gamescom 2013, live from Cologne, Germany. It is time for the International Wildcard Final between the CIS champions Gaming Gear EU and coming into this best of 3 series, going to be taking on Brazil's Pain Gaming. Most people have the South American powerhouse pegged as the favorites.
Yeah, even though they stumbled a little against Dark Passage yesterday, they were still impressive in their 2 wins, and even more impressive in their 3 wins on day 1. VRTT has been helping carry Pain to victory with some very flashy AD play. In fact, he got the first pentakill of GameCon on Caitlyn back on day 1. Pain's other damage dealer is the mid laner Cammy. He's consistently making plays for his team by catching people off guard, just going at them when they least expect it.
And we'll have to see how well he does today, because Kami and Pain are going to be gumming up another mid laner who is a playmaker, Gaming Gear's Mazarin.
Mazarin really showed off his Orianna skills yesterday, making big play after big play in their sweep of team immunity. On day 1, his Gragas was really on point too. He had a Baron steal with that Gragas, and they also turned around in their last game, Wednesday, with an explosive double kill at Baron. So he's had a lot of action around that Baron pit, using those AoE spells to great effect. Even though they lost to Pain in their group stage matchup, Mazarin had a really decent game on Orianna as well. While Cammy registered his highest death total for any match here at Gamescom, even though they beat Gaming Gear.
Well, we'll have to see how this works out. Even though Gaming Gear dropped their first head-to-head showdown against Pain, now that they've seen the Brazil's champions played a few times in a few more matches, Gaming Gear is confident that they know how to put the hurt on Pain Gaming.
Amanhã a gente vai jogar contra a Game Gear EU e a gente tem que analisar bem o que eles fizeram hoje para conseguir uma estratégia boa para amanhã.
They beat us in round robin because we miscommunicated a lot in that match and we made a lot of mistakes.
Nós ganhamos deles já uma vez, foi um jogo bem tenso, mas foi um jogo bem legal e a gente esteve na frente o tempo todo.
Now we'll know what to ban against them and we'll do a lot better against them now.
Eu acho que eles vão vir com um jogo diferente e a gente vai ter que mudar nosso jogo também para conseguir ganhar deles amanhã.
We have to focus on our mid game and late game more because if we fail, we will lose.
Acho que tem que manter a calma e pensar bem nos piques antes de começar a partida para fazer um bom jogo.
We need to play our solid game, ban particular champions, and we should win, I think, to go.
Nós precisamos ganhar uma melhor de 3 contra a Gaming Gear EU para representar todos os servidores novos nos Estados Unidos.
No momento a gente tem que se preocupar apenas com a partida, porque embora a gente esteja muito perto, a gente ainda está muito longe de ir para Los Angeles.
One of the biggest things that I take out of that video is showing the players talk about individual mistakes and decision making as a key. Gaming in particular, worried about the late game.
Yeah, and they definitely should have been watching last week's series or yesterday's series that Pain Gaming had against Dark Passage, because there's a few tips in there that they could have gotten.
Well, we'll have to see if they do manage to at least dig up that information. Before we kick off the game, we do need to take a look at those starting lineups. And starting on the blue side this time around, it is going to be Gaming Gear EU. And players are going to be in NBS in the top lane, Alinea in the jungle, Mazarin as your mid laner, as well as Deadly Brother and Inspiro as your AD carry and support.
And then in the red corner, it's Pain Gaming. Venon is up top. Sir T is the jungler. Cammy's at mid. BRTT's on AD carry, and Espeon is supporting him.
All right, as with all of these big matchups, we do have to talk about the head-to-head. And, you know, we've highlighted the mid laners so far in a lot of our pre-match coverage, but our featured matchup of this series is actually going to be the Rumble in the Jungle between Gaming Gear's Alinea and Pain Gaming's Sir T.
Yeah, both Sir T and Alinea depend heavily on the early game success. In their earlier matches here at Gamescom, both of them have been able to capitalize on any sort of early game success and get their lanes rolling towards the mid and late game. But they have also been both susceptible to invades, which they've had trouble coming back from. So a lot of that early and mid game is really going to come from the jungle.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how well Alinea can put his presence on the map, because in terms of the games that we have seen, when he does get that lead, he tends to snowball the rest of his lanes well. And that's been very key in helping Gaming Gear pick up many of their team fight wins, especially when he's the one tower diving.
I think another really important thing is the Gragas here. Like we said, one of the main tips you could have picked up yesterday was that the key to beating Pain has been splitting them up. They really rely on chaining their hard crowd control skills, and that involves some very specific timing Gragas is a perfect champion for breaking up that chain. And as we already said, Mazarin had a really good performance on Gragas already earlier in the tournament, so that's an easy ban for them.
Well, we'll have to see how they feel the rest of the bans work out. In terms of Pain Gaming's jungler Sir T, just to wrap up, he's also the shot caller for his team as well. So not only is he, instrumental in that early game stage, he's the decision maker once we get all of the ridiculous amount of dives that Pain Gaming like to put down.
It's similar to why people go at Reggie when they face TSM, because he is both one of the carries, their mid laner, and he's the play caller. Same idea, if you can invade the jungle and get Sir T behind and off of this game very early, then their play calling will suffer as a side effect.
Well, let's see what they decide to lock in. Gaming Gear going to secure that Orianna. Now, Mazarin has only played that Gragas and Orianna to phenomenal effect that we've seen him do, making some very good plays. And again, it's a safe pick. It's something that they can lock in. It's not going to be easily counterpicked.
Yeah, definitely a highly contested mid right there. But Zyra has also been, the highest contested mid/support. A lot of the teams in the wildcard tournament have been using her as a early pick because they can send her to either of those lanes.
And we've also seen Zyra banned out multiple times as well throughout the course of the entirety of this wildcard event. Now, BRTT, he's already locked in that Ezreal. We've seen him do great work with hyper carries, and his positioning in particular has been very good. But I'm interested to see his pick Ezreal over Twitch, because his Twitch was so impactful yesterday.
His Ezreal, though, is also very strong, and it works very well with Pain's dive-heavy ideology that they pretty much follow. They haven't locked up, well, they instantly lock in one of those parts right there, the Nocturne. That's for going extremely deep. And the best part about Ezreal is that he can basically take care of himself. So if his whole team even just leaves him, then he's so mobile, it really works well with Pain's front line.
Well, we'll have to see what they decide to finalize. That's going to be a double AD comp for Pain.
Oh.
Let's talk about some of the compositions that we're seeing here. You've got a nice sort of all-in. You've got that ball delivery system of Jarvan and Renekton for Gaming Gear. But over on Pain, that's a lot of utility.
Yeah, not only have they picked up the Orianna Jarvan for the ball delivery system, but they did lock in that Twitch that you're talking about and comboed it with Sona for her crescendo. So they have a whole bunch of control. Pain are taking a little bit different look than we've seen in the rest of the tournament. They are going with that duo lane of the Ashe Zyra that's very, very popular over in North America because of Cloud9. And they actually have that Ezreal, which is probably going to be mid and probably not going to be AP, as a lot of people may be hoping. It's a blue Ezreal usually, and that's really the core of a dual AD composition. Not a lot of other AD carries that you can run in that mid lane and be effective.
So I'm having flashbacks to week 6 or week 7 of the NALCS. We're on day 1 of the week. Of the 4 games, 3 of them were double AD comps. And everybody started talking about it, exponentially. It was all over social media. I know Jad and I were discussing it on stream. You and I have discussed it here at the wildcard. And one of the things that we always highlight about double ADs, you need that utility to buy the time to get the damage down. And to me, I think Pain Gaming have got a pretty good composition, in theory, for the double AD to work.
So they don't have what you usually bring for the double AD, which is the hard CC top laner or hard CC jungler, but they've brought this highly crowd control oriented duo lane with them. They've got the Ashe Arrow and all of the Zyra crowd control. So they are bringing it just in a different area than we're used to seeing with double ADs. And I really like the adaptation because having Nocturne in there as your jungler means that you do get the darkness effect, and that's going to cause GG Gaming Gear to group up.
Well, you can see we are about to jump into the first game of this final here of the International Wildcard Tournament. I really do have to give shout-outs to every single region that's taken part and has watched all of the games, in particular to those that have fallen: Australia, Turkey, and Mexico. Unfortunately, they're not in the final, but I'm sure they'll be watching with bated breath, as are the Brazilians and the Lithuanians. This is a truly international viewing experience for this wildcard final. It does look like a dual lane for Pain is positioning themselves maybe towards this top lane, so some lane swaps to be expected.
They also have Rumble up there too, though, so it could go any way at this point. Really, though, the early game we talked about being very important for the junglers. Pain is also running a double AD, so it makes the early game even that much more important for them. So I feel like this is going to be a highly action-packed game, starting off very quickly.
Well, we can definitely hope for that one. I know that many kills and lots of action is definitely something that everybody enjoys watching. Very early Friday morning. 1 minute 10 on the clock. We haven't seen any sort of invades. We've seen some very shallow wards, but more wards on the map for Gaming Gear than that of Pain. That's about 4 of them in the river alone. Gaming Gear really nervous about a potential invade here from Pain Gaming. It does mean that it's a very stagnant start as far as this early game is concerned.
Well, yeah, this is just going to be a safe start here. And for Pain, really the action is going to start when they have that Crystal Arrow available from Ashe, because they have one of the best follow-ups, which is Nocturne, who can get to that target from basically half a screen away. And when that bottom lane duo hits 6 and the jungler is level 6, it's going to be very, very dangerous for them. Also, having Rumble means that they can force a dragon fight down in that area. So if they can kill bottom lane and turn it into the dragon objective right after, it's probably going to be the early game plan here for Pain.
Well, Deadly Brother and Inspiro moving towards this bottom lane. Espion and BRTT hanging out. Remember, Ashe has got that guaranteed critical. And if anyone gets rooted, that's actually 2 very squishy targets.
Yeah, Sona's aware of it too, though. They know that they're running Ashe. It's a common strategy, trying to get that focus up so you guarantee your first shot crit. And that's really how a lot of the Ashe lanes can get their very early presence in lane up.
Well, doesn't manage to work off this time round. We'll have to see if those deck bushes are secured later in the game. For the time being, that non-sustain of Pain means there's going to be a lot more pressure on them to try and get some damage down and ideally avoid any of those expunge bursts that Deadly Brothers will be looking to lay down.
They're trading fairly heavily here early on, though. It looks like the Sona is going to be a very worthwhile support as she can chain those heals over and over.
Well, let's take a look at this mid lane, because Orianna versus Ezreal, we've seen more and more AD Ezreal's mid. It's still sort of a fringe composition. It's not something that you see every week of games, but it is a matchup that I think both of these players will be well aware of, and you'd have to imagine that the early game coming, maybe the auto attacks could put some pressure down. And you see NBS has been caught out just a little bit. Coming in from
Here
the
comes the early game jungle pressure too.
The Ignite is down, it's down to 200 HP, and Serti's just waiting for the flash. Doesn't manage to land the Dust Spring, so it doesn't look like he's going to get involved as far as the assist is concerned. The NBS is just taking them on a long walk. They're overheat, plus the flame splitter, and first blood actually gets secured by Serti.
All right, so Serti is the first one to strike here. Jarvan's looking to answer down bottom, but there is a ward in that tri-bush. Serti's gank went right through a ward, by the way. It was just that Renekton was so far pushed up and already trading with Rumble that he was able to close in, and he didn't even have to add the damage there, just close off the escapes from Renekton so that he had nowhere to go.
Well, at the very least, NBS was able to save his flash, so realizing that he's done for, he manages to hold on to that summoner spell, and we'll see whether or not Venom can use that assist gold, a little bit of time in the lane alone, to at least get an item advantage for future fights.
This may be Alanir getting a little bit hungry and a little bit desperate for that early game pressure. We talked about how both of them didn't get the very early start, and it's already causing him to look for alternate routes for his ganks. This one is a very well thought out route because he's bypassed all the wards bottom lane, and with that blue buff, he has the cooldown reduction to wait for his EQ combo to come right back up before going in for this gank. It's a very well set up gank.
Take a look at the HP of Deadly Brother and Inspiro, though they are fairly low. Deadly Brother cannot afford to take any combos of damage.
All the better for baiting, though, Quick Shot. He has barrier as well. Here comes Jarvan.
Now we'll see if they can get the knockup. This is the key. Manages to get some auto attacks down. Throws up Ashe into the air. Deadly Brother is not involved in this fight yet. And we see Alinea just pounding away on BRTT's ass. He's down to 105 HP. BRTT gets away with 17 hit points and walks himself out of the game.
Alinea did not want to flash in for that last hit because of being worried about that Zyra snare grabbing him under the turret. Didn't want to be able to answer there. But that was really probably the low health of Deadly Brother was the reason that he was so far back and he didn't get any damage off in that gank. He didn't actually go for the bait that I thought he might try, being that he still had barrier available. But in the end, they don't have enough damage to finish off the gank.
Well, Alinea, unfortunately, not able to get a kill or even summon himself out of that bottom lane. Knight was burned. That's not the end of the world. We do see NBS's return to this top lane. He's actually quite quickly pushed that lane back towards Ben and Sally, even though he died first and it was sitting on his side of the river for a little bit of time. So NBS definitely signaling his intentions to stay very deep in Pain Gaming's territory.
And they don't want to let all of their lanes get pushed. because a mid Ezreal is usually looking to push the lane up to contain the mid lane of their opponents and then make use of his mobility with his arcane flash to be able to escape any jungle ganks that do come mid and get a lot of very early tower pressure.
Well, we'll see if it works out for them, as we did see Sir T once again moving himself closer towards that top lane. He's currently sitting at level 5. He's toying with the idea of another kill here. Oh, Venom is starting to overheat. It's going to be auto attack magic damage down. Dustbringer lands. The Unspeakable Horror is going to throw MBS back towards the wall. That's a pretty decent equalizer, but MBS manages to sidestep it. Maybe a slightly different angle would have been more optimal.
Well, yeah, decent equalizer, I don't know. We already had Sir T backing off of that gank, and it looked like Venom just wanted another kill there. Ends up using the cooldown, but it won't be that big because they ended up getting Renekton's ultimate out as well. He doesn't have that extra pool of HP to rely upon for any repeat aggression. And
look at the ward placements here for PN Gaming. They've got 3 near the top of the map, 3 near the bottom area of the map. They're definitely afraid of Alinia's ganks and basically setting up this ring of vision to be completely aware of any potential dive-ins from that job.
And he's taken the same route that he just took to get that gank from behind off on the bottom lane. The only thing is we have a new ward mid here, and it's an Ashe Zyra lane. They get a lot of free vision using the Hawk Shot and the seeds from Zyra.
Well, as you see that Alinia was spotted, he was caught out, forced at least away from that gank. In terms of the early game, CS numbers are actually fairly close across the board. However, NBS and Mazarine with a small advantage over the counterparts. And it's interesting when you consider NBS died and Mazarine's dealing with basically an 80 carry, so we have to give props to Gaming Gear on a mechanical level at that.
Yeah, I've consistently been impressed by Mazarine the entire tournament here. He's probably my favorite player on Gaming Gear. He always comes up with a strong laning phase and then amazing end game, just basically team fight making plays.
When we're talking about the laning phase, the member of PN Gaming who struggled, I think in every laning phase we've seen him take part in is Venom. He has tended and trended towards being behind in CS until now.
So a big part of that has been that up until now, he's always used teleport as one of his summoner spells. So it reduces your combat effectiveness in that 1v1 situation. Now he's actually with Rumble and he has Flash Ignite. So he has all the power that he needs, plus he's gotten repeat ganks from Sir T that have been effective. Off to a very good start here. Even so, still losing in CS.
Well, we'll have to see how it works out. The Crystal Arrow flies out, manages to land onto Sona. There goes Paranoia. The Gear throw goes in for a down to left. He manages to get rooted. That's another kill for PN Gaming. And they just landed everything that they needed to.
That's that combo I talked about, the Nocturne into the Ashe. If you hit the Crystal Arrow, he will be able to follow up on it every single time. And since you have Zyra as well, there's just way too many snares there.
And we talked about how important the early game was going to be for PN Gaming, and with 2 quick kills on the board, as well as a pretty decent laning phase thus far, it's working in their favor. I do want to touch on VRTT's Avarice Blade in a second. As you can see, Alinia has moved to this top lane.
Yeah, Ashe has been able to basically go to that bottom lane and escape all the ganks while going with a gold item here. This is going to be a 3-man gank, though. They are definitely looking for this dive, and NBS does have his ulti back up, so he can actually tank that turret fairly effectively.
Well, Venom does have flash available. Here comes Alinia. He's taking a tank. Come on, Protect goes down. That equalizes much better. The knockup does not land, however, and Alinia forced to flash to safety. Mazarine and NBS combo down the damage and pick up the first kill of the game for the Lithuanians.
Valiant attempt to survive right there by Venom, but ultimately unsuccessful. There was just 3 people. They didn't even have to wait for a minion wave. And they actually lost out a lot on that mid-turret pressure. We were talking about Ezreal already looking to push that turret early anyway. Now he's actually had Sir T come in to help him out.
We just now that Inspiro very close to dancing with wolves for a moment. Almost gets caught up by that Ezreal Nocturne. And you know, one thing about that dive in the top lane, Cataclysm and Shockwave were not even used. So very well coordinated as far as the ultimates are concerned. And if a dragon fight were to occur, Equalizer's not available, but Shockwave and Cataclysm is.
And it's actually dangerous for PN Gaming because they don't have the crowd control from their mid lane. Orianna's going to bring in that Shockwave, whereas Ezreal is only going to be supplying damage. So if their bottom lane can't bring the Crystal Arrow and the Zyra combo in, then they can't go for that dragon.
Well, we'll have to see how it pans out. For the time being, Pain Gaming have got that ring of wards around the Dragon Pit, so they can see if anybody's moving towards it on the side of Gaming Gear. Approaching that sort of 11-minute 30, and I actually think from the wildcard games, we haven't seen too much focus on Dragons in the early game. It tends to be something that they only really start looking at once towers are down.
We've also seen Jarvan creep up top here for Gaming Gear. And Rumble just put down a ward, but he didn't ward specifically for Jarvan. Jarvan's always loved to jump this wall, get into the side bush. He warded like he was warding for a regular jungler here. He might get good.
Oh, slam dunk comes down. Venom's been locked in. Equalizer gets thrown out. There's going to be at least some damage putting down. He starts to overheat. There's not going to be any more electro harpoons coming out as Venom continues to try and escape. The true shot barrage rattles across Alien and MBS. That's a flash forward for MBS. He gets the stand down. Dominus damage not enough. One slice continues to chase. The shield comes up. This Culver Meek manages to close out the kill. Now MBS realizes he's maybe able to chase with the command protect. Just decides to back away, and at the end of the day, single kill but hard fought.
Vina only brought one ward and did not put it in the right spot there. Definitely feels very bad when you purchase the ward, you spend the money to protect yourself from the gank, and he just didn't use it effectively.
Oh, just forgetting about that flag and drag combo that Jarvan does have available to him. NBS and Alino with a couple of seconds of uncontested damage in the tower drop the top lane to below 50% HP. So I think as far as tower damage is concerned, Gaming Gear have done a pretty good job in the top lane, and Pain have done a pretty good job in the middle lane. But with those two kills that Gaming Gear have secured, it's only a 200 gold difference at this point in the game.
Yeah, you do have to shout out Mazarin in that mid lane, holding off the Ezreal from the mid turret. He's doing a very good job of trading the auto attack, using his shield effectively, and getting the extra resistances for holding the ball while he goes in for those artifact trades. Orianna, one of the only mid-lane mages that can pull off those trades with an
Has had some very, very good performances on that Orion over the course of this wildcard international qualifier. We'll have to see if he can land some good shockwaves in the not too distant future, because it's a fairly squishy Pain Gaming team that hopefully he's looking to destroy. Right now, Kami's basically going to solo up this blue buff, his Bam Scepter and his Tear of the Goddess. He walks away relatively unscathed, and he's stacking up that mana as quickly as is possible.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before he does get the damage half of that. Blue Ezreal now at his goal in combat effectiveness.
Let's see whether or not City can land another one of those paranoia gangs, because we've seen one of them so far, and it was very successful. They picked up the kill into Inspiro, but that was before Inspiro had Crescendo available. So it's going to be a little more difficult if they stick super close to him, and that spell shield doesn't block that stunning ability.
Yeah, and the key there was that you could see how Pain did not have that much damage to burst down Sona. They just chained every single CC, and they were able to keep her in place. If they do that while she's level 6 already, then she will throw out the defensive crescendo, and she also has her flash and exhaust this time. So it'll be a lot more difficult for them to pull off the same game.
Oh, Mazarin definitely wants to pick a fight here with Kami. Ignite, down, shockwave, doesn't manage to land as the arcane shift into flash, throws Kami to safety, not going to be enough to get away as Mazarin insta-flashes forward, secures the kill. Now with the red buff slow coming down, Turkey continues to chase, Kamal protect plus dissonance, the knockup gets flashed away, Cataclysm locks Mazarin in, so it's a trade of 1-for-1, both mid laners are down as 13 Alenia now start bashing away. In the bottom lane, it's actually Gaming Gear that secure the kill onto BRTT, and the chase is not over. Nocturne gets flung up into the air. Now will the fear land? This is the key. It throws Alenia away. Dustbringer comes up. Can he land the flag? No! This Dragon Strike does not land, and Sir T escapes with his life.
30 HP there on Sir T. He does get out. The fear proccing just in time, and he also had a beautiful flash there to dodge the Jarvan EQ and forcing Jarvan to use that Cataclysm, which blocked in Mazarin.
Oh, we just true shot barrage, picks up a kill onto Sona. The dead body just floats in front of Deadly Brother. Kami from instantly respawning. There's not even vision there. He just seen that when the pink water's down.
They did just kill off the vision there too, so he knew they were previously standing in that area, but a beautiful shot and able to get the money back on that AP Ezreal so that he can get to his powerful items that much more quickly.
This was that fear blocking search. He just thrown Alenia exactly the direction he wanted, away from him. Managed to allow Alenia to get out cleanly. Right now, 4 kills to 4, 700 gold difference. Gaming gets secure that first dragon of the game. Playing Gaming now stacked up with 3 members in the mid lane gap. Oh, Mazarin going in forward. He is alone. He's put a lot of damage on the CT. The tower shot's not going to be enough. There's no ignite available. He gets the kill with one look command attack. That was 1v3 and he tanked them up for a very long time.
He did delay that tower pick, but going 1 versus 3 is impressive. However, more gold goes to Paint Gaming because they got the assist, which is an extra 50%.
Now we see BRTT, he throws out the Crystal Arrow. Deadly Brother's got the Poison Sax and expunged down, and at this stage of the game, with that Blade of the Ruined King, there is assassination potential.
And Blade of the Ruined King cooldown much shorter than Crystal Arrow, so it's always worth his while to go in for that assassination attempt. Even if he does get stunned up and he can't finish it, being able to force out BRTT from the lane was very, very effective there. Plus, he doesn't have to worry about the long-range Crystal Arrow into Nocturne Paranoia combo on his Sona that now does not have her summoner spells.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Gaming Gear did lose their second tower of the game, so that's mid and bottom towers that have been dropped. We'll have to see how Pain Gaming decides to respond to this one. We still have to defend this bottom lane as Instro and Deadly Brother putting a lot of damage onto Pain Gaming's bottom tower. And I guess if Gaming Gear decides to group up and actually force them to get the blue buff goes out, not a steal this time round, but a decent attempt from Kami, just a second early.
Another blind true shot barrage right there, and he almost stole the second objective. That was calculated because he saw Orianna leave lane, knew that at that 17-30 minute mark, blue buff was ready and they were going for it.
Oh, Kami's gonna tower dive this one. Paranoia comes out, Shockwave pulls him backwards. He's dead before Nocturne can even arrive. Now Surti turns his focus onto Alinur, and Alinur just saunters on out of there, doesn't even burn the flash. A very good combo for Gaming Gear.
I'll teach him to try and steal away my blue buff. That was a beautiful combo that's very, very hard to escape the Jarvan and Orianna. That's why we always talk up that delivery system, just for the reason right there. It's so effective.
Yeah, even an Ezreal with that arcane shift was not able to put enough distance away. Now we have, we haven't really taken a look at the top lane since all of that early game pressure and ganks were taking place. Venom falling a little further behind, 20 CS Ignite is down on 30 in this mid lane, and Mazarine just on a rampage right now, 5-2-0. He just chases Sir T down and picks up what looked to be a very easy kill for him.
Just such an impressive mid laner. All tournament long, he's been making those types of plays. Just solo kills, combo kills with Jarvan. He's really exerting the pressure and trying to answer back for his turret being taken.
Well, if you see that, unfortunately, Alinea and Mazarine were unable to take that one. The Ash Arrow does catch up Deadly Brother. Here comes the Stranglehold. Crescendo locks up BRTT, followed in with the exhaust. Oh! Now the bounties can keep them alive. Out of range of Expunge, but the poison ticks are ticking down. The massive Expunge onto Espeon as he's trying to get away. Now Kami has rejoined this party. Arcane shifts into the river. We'll see if he can find himself a rat. Poison is going to be enough, not enough to kill Espeon, and Kami decides against the fight.
That's all because of the very well-placed ward that Sona put to guard them from Jarvan ganks. It also helped in this situation. Ezreal thinking the exact same thing that Jarvan would have, popping over from that Tribush ledge in to gank them.
So, with the fact that a lot of members have been pushed away and Kami being spotted in that bottom lane, Alinea has now decided to apply some focus onto this red buff. He's going to be able to secure a steal now. The first 2 towers of the game has fallen in favor
There
of
are
Gaming
no
Gear.
wards up here for Pinon either, and 3 members of Gaming Gear EU are in the area. Very good job by him, noticing that he's in danger and pulling back.
So wisely moving away. He's not going to get fooled a second time in this setup. NBA is doing a little bit of dirty farming, as we call it. Tower gets dropped and he's denying Venom at least a couple extra CS, a couple extra chunks of golden experience. As now Gaming Gear, in a matter of 2 minutes, secured 3 towers back-to-back, multiple kills, and I would imagine they're going to start setting themselves up for the next dragon fight. They will have the timer on it, and it's not too far away.
Then we have NBS heading over to the bottom side of the map now as well. I would expect Gaming Gear to be the ones forcing this, as Rumble is still up top, trying to push the lane back in their favor. And really the reason that we did see the cooldown up in that top lane of a lot less action going on is because once Renekton gets that Spear Visage, there's not a lot that Rumble can actually do. Not only is it a bunch of magic resistant cooldown reduction, but Renekton gets a lot of healing from his Hold the Meek ability that he's able to keep on using in lane, and that boosts the ability by 20%.
Well, you can see that NBS has made it out of that lane with that 20 CS advantage. Becoming a lot scarier as Dragon is now in 30 seconds going to be available. And you can see all of Gaming Gear have grouped up. Very crucially for Kami, he does have that Iceborne Gauntlet as well as the Mana is depleted. So it's not a damage spike, there's no Neuro Mana yet, but it's going to be impactful.
And because Gaming Gear have grouped up so early, there are wards here from Pain Gaming, and they're seeing them group up, so they've basically showed their hand. Pain know exactly what Gaming Gear are looking for right now.
Well, we'll see how Pain decides to deal with this one. They do have that incredible long-range initiation.
Not only have we finished the Iceborne Gauntlet there for Ezreal, but there's also an Infinity Edge for Ashe, so they actually have the power spike that they would like for this Dragon fight.
You see that Equalizer is available, Crystal Arrow is available. The question is, when do Pain Gaming decide to throw that one out? Gaming Gear are now finally starting off this Dragon fight in his vision.
This is very dangerous to go into the Dragon pit when the other team has a rumble.
Paranoia comes down, Equalizer gets thrown out, the Crescendo only locking up Venom. Now Surti is way deep. He's taking on every single member of Gaming Gear. He's going to be the first victim to fall. Now NBS is trying to find himself a Kami. Does not manage to land any stun. The rest of Gaming Gear have turned back into Dragon. Arrow down, Stranglethorn down, Equalizer down. Advantage for Gaming Gear.
The lack of hard CC that Pain brought really showing here. They weren't able to lock down a kill.
And it just means that Gaming Gear secure the Dragon and a kill and walk away from this one. Very, very good trade for them. And Pain just didn't stack their ultimates together really at all.
They did not have enough to finish that one off because they didn't stun anyone on top of the Rumble ultimate. So a lot of that damage over time did not find any target.
Taking a look at the items, you see that BRTT, as you mentioned, it's got that Infinity Edge and the Avarice Blade. Has been sitting on that for a while. His opponent, Deadly Brother's got that pickaxe. The item that I really want to highlight here is that Mazarine's Orianna, he rushed Kira the Goddess early, then went into that Zhonya's Hourglass, and now Morella Nomicon. And I recall earlier that Morella Nomicon almost replaced Athene's in some ways, in certain comps, but it's definitely not traditional.
Well, it's when he doesn't need the magic resist. Athene's Unholy Grail is much better when you're up against another mage, but since he went against Ezreal, very easy choice for him to make.
Well, it's going to pay off, especially in these extended fights, if that healing reduction debuff can help against those double AD carries, and we'll see whether or not Mazarine can burst anybody low enough for that to come into effect.
And it really showed in that last fight his ability to put the shield on both of Gaming Gear's tanks allowed even Alanir, who had not had any extra armor at that point, he just now has finished that rocket, which gives you a little bit of armor for yourself. But basically, he had both boots of mobility. He doesn't even have Ninja Tabi or anything, and he was able to effectively tank both AD carries by making them play defensively and start kiting him.
Now, there is one thing I do want to highlight about Gaming Gear, what we've seen of them throughout the tournament. When they are in a position like this, they have an advantage and they now need to press enemy territory. Gaming Gear likes to tower dive, and it doesn't always work out in their favor. They've lost many, many fights by sticking a little too deep, a little too long. And we'll have to see if they've been able to figure out some of the communication issues and, well, issues not the right word, but communication problems that are resulting from those lost dives.
Yeah, both of these teams actually very fond of diving. Here's the initiation.
The arrow goes out and manages to land a Deadly Brother as Inspiro is actually flashing off to the side, or Mazarine rather. Unfortunately, the re-engage now comes out from Gaming Gear. They've locked up Esco. Stranglethorn goes down, and that's brilliant. Throws up 3 members of Gaming Gear, forces Mazarine to run around the outside.
That's all the ultimates down for Pain Gaming, though. All they have left is True Shot Barrage. They cannot fight a 5-on-5 anymore at this point because Crescendo and Shockwave are still up.
Well, we'll see how Gaming Gear handled this, knowing this window of opportunity only open for so long. They're going to decide to steal away this red buff. True Shot Barrage comes down, basically blind as well, actually. He knew that they were starts. Kami knew that red buff was going on. Almost secured. No steals just yet. And the rest of Gaming Gear stacking mid.
Finally, though, after 25 minutes, we have had the blue Ezreal get his power spike that he's been waiting for.
Oh, Shockwave! They throw his spin up at the BRTT's the next focus. He's going to get shredded in the background. Finally gets taken down by a Dragon Strike. That's a double kill for Alanir, and that's going to be a tower.
Again, the weakness of the double AD comp, the front line, they had no hard CC.
They've caught Kami out, he's stunned, he's knocked up, the damage is there, the slice is up, the dice is through, Kilbermeek manages to land the kill, NBS gets thrown into a tower and he's like, what's up, bro? Just walks away from that one. They secure the inner turret and now Gaming Gear turns to inhibitor.
Those are the classic Mazarine team fight plays that they've been looking for. Now they're going to go on the inhibitor turret.
Now we do see once again NBS the focus of the fear. Surtees a little too nervous to get involved there. Can't stick too deep, but right now tower is down, but inhibitor stands, which is crucially important for Pain Gaming.
Getting down that inhibitor turret is such a huge win for Gaming Gear. You talked about how one of their weaknesses is overextending on those turret dives. Now they actually have an exposed inhibitor that they can fight over. They don't have to risk all that turret damage.
I feel like Pain Gaming simply haven't comboed their ultimates together in this fight. They're throwing them in one by one by one, and in theory that can work, but when you're double elite, it's got to be on top of each other, and they're just not. They're not even close enough for that to work.
I'm not sure why they've strayed from their normal strategy of using like hack and malfight, because a double AD comp takes a lot of practice to pull off here, and you really do need a bit stronger of a front line here. You know, Zyra is one of the best supports that you can run with a double AD comp, but Rumble and Nocturne can't keep anyone in one spot for long enough, and Ashe is having to spend so much time backpedaling that she doesn't get to fire off enough auto attacks.
Let's see if Pain Gaming can pull this one back. I recall when Lemon Dogs used a double AD comp against Evil Geniuses in week 9, their mid game was pretty strong once they hit those item thresholds, that's a good word. And then once they got the damage, they were able to at least turn some of the fights. And I guess that's what Pain are going to be looking to do now. Infinity Edge plus Last Whisper completed for BRTT. Kami can't be too far off a Last Whisper, you know, of his own. And when there's no armor penetration for Deadly Brother, he's also just a little less scary.
I mean, it is worth saying that on Gaming Gear, we don't have any Randuin or any Thornmails being created yet, so that's when Pain would really have to start worrying. They're actually in not too shabby of a spot right now. They just have to play a little bit more defensively until they can scale up.
And we'll see whether or not we can get any more of those perfect Stranglethorns and the steps of your inhibitor turret in that tiny enclosed space. All of the power that Pain Gaming is amplified, and they need to make sure that they land it together. The RTT has now moved his way to the top lane. I want to touch on the fact during the pre-game, he was wearing those like fingerless gloves, and I imagine the German climate, even though it's warm here, it's not quite Brazil temperature. So.
Not quite. Plus he has to have his fingers free to eat those peanuts that he desperately needs.
That's it. Yeah, big fan over there. So Pain Gaming right now, they find themselves 7,000 gold behind. They've stacked themselves up as a 5-man in this mid lane. And after taking 2 towers within the first 12 or 13 minutes of the game, they have not been able to secure another one.
It's just so different from what we've been seeing from Pain all tournament long, which is what's been working. They now have DRTG, who's usually on someone like the Caitlyn or a Vayne or a Twitch, and able to just wreck the other team from the back line. On Ashe, he just hasn't had the same effect. 0, 2, and 1 is not something that we're used to seeing from him.
And one of the things that both of these teams value is that Zac pick, and Pain actually banned Zac out themselves. It was their 3rd and final ban. Malphite was available. They decided against running him. Now right now, Gaming Gear have got that Oracle's Elixir running. They're clearing up vision, and there is a massive amount of vision control in favor of Gaming Gear. If you look at that mini-map, they have just littered vision across the entire side of Pain Gaming, and they're looking for an opportunity.
Pain do still have Hawkshot available though, so they can check this without getting too overextended. It's something that you really value in the late game from Ashe. Not only does he have great engage, but she can also check that Baron without putting you into too much danger.
Well, we'll see if Gaming Gear can make use of that small timing window, sneak themselves into the bush. It's a death rush right now. Hawkshot was just used 10 seconds ago, 15 seconds ago, and Gaming Gear have started themselves with the ground. However,
Surti is recalling here. He's in the fountain.
Well, we know that that's no smite steal available. 6,500 HP, and there goes the true shot barrage. That's going to reveal Baron, and I think it may be too late. Look on the minimap of the Crystal Arrow, 1,000 HP, not even going to get thrown out this time around. However, Inspro is a little out of position. Crescendo goes down, doesn't manage to catch anybody. Was hoping to lock up BRTT. That backfired.
Every now and again, you know, we've got to make a YouTube video of the missed crescendos. But Gaming Gear did a great job jumping on that window that you talked about. They saw Hawkshot go off as soon as the vision disappeared. They went right over to Baron, knowing that Pain would feel safe, having just seen they were not actually attacking it. Took Kemi a little bit too long to fire the true shot barrage over, and they did get a very easy Baron.
Kami's able to secure his blue buff, something that Gaming Gear have done well this game has controlled the red buff of Pain, but the blue buff has been secured by Kami.
And again, since they're all going back to base right now, I have to still wonder why Pain made so many radical changes. Not only the BRTT changes that we talked about, but also Venon, yes, he usually loses his lane, but usually he's bringing teleport and he's on someone like Malphite where he can make plays on other areas of the map. They don't have that hard engage, and they don't have Kami, their other playmaker. We shouted him out so many times about being the one to go at their opponents when they're not expecting it and starting off the plays with something like Ahri and landing a charm. On Ezreal, he doesn't have the option to be that playmaker. He's really a backline damage source here. So the main two playmakers there for Pain are not on hard initiate champions, and they don't really have abilities to pick people off. So now they sort of switched those roles over to BRTT and Surge. Not quite working out.
Well, the onus is now on Gaming Gear to find themselves an opportunity in a window. Taker's inhibitor, they've moved up as 5. Everything is available, barring that true shot barrage from Pain Gaming. Come on, protect lands onto Deadly Brother. He's managed to land the auto attack. The inhibitor instantly manages to clear himself away, flashes out. We do see that Sir T is sticking. The Strangleforce throws every single member of Gaming Gear aside. The Shockwave only catching Venom. The first victim of the fight is going to be Sir T's Lofton, as now they turn onto Venom. That's Rumble down. The stun lands onto Kami, and the 2 AD carries of Pain Gaming are backpedaling, are running away. There was a double kill from Mandarin. He's looking for the triple. Inspro secures the kill. 4 for 0. And they just ran at them.
Even with the crucial ultimates missing there, Shockwave and Crescendo only hitting one person, still able to obliterate Pain.
Gaming Gear, they pick up the first victory in this best of 3. This is the Lithuanian team, the underdogs in the final of the Wild Card qualifier. Brazil 0-1 down.
You can see right there, NPS raising his hands. They must be wondering why Pain have deviated from what they've done all tournament long as well, because coming into this, you're right, Gaming Gear were the underdogs, but they just showed up huge right here.
Now they played so incredibly well, and you cannot discount the impact that Mazarine had throughout the entirety of that mid-game. 2 or 3 shockwaves, basically you could attribute a lot of that mid-game control and presence to Mazarine's ultimate.
And he really dealt with that mid-Ezreal very well, too. There's a reason we've been talking up Mazarine for Gaming Gear.
Well, the question is now for Pain. What do they decide to do going into match number 2? They banned out Zac previously. They have the benefit of being blue side and first pick this time around. Do they go back to the comp that's working for them?
Yes, that's the short answer.
And what do you think they're going to run? Do you think we're going to see a Zac? Because we know that Gaming Gear, they also prioritize that Zac pick.
I think that even if they don't get Zac, Pain are going to pick up something like Malphite and put that on Venon, because we saw, even with the early ganks, 2 early ganks there from Sir T, getting Venon ahead in the lane and getting him that kill, he still lost out on CS, and he didn't have his teleport to make the plays elsewhere. They're going to put him on a hard CC tank, and they're going to put BRTT back on a bit of a higher damage AD carry.
I'd definitely like to see if they can sort out some of the communication and the team fight things, because they didn't really stack things up. So that's it for game 1. We're going to take a look at the big plays with Demon and Jat over at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. So, wow, what do we think then? That was a bit of a surprise. Pain Gaming don't seem like they've woke up quite yet. Gaming Gear absolutely destroyed them.
That was a really poor performance by Pain Gaming. Especially just, even from the picks and bans, they lost their way. And then in-game, their execution wasn't good either.
Well, let's go back to those picks and bans, because when we were talking about it, when they did it, we're like, okay, they've gone Korean, but like you said, they should have a tank in the top.
So, I mean, double AD comps are something that we've seen across multiple regions now. It did mainly start in Korea, but if you're going to be running that, you generally bring a very strong tank in the top, and at least a strong tank in the jungle. Nocturne's a diver. Rumble is just added damage. They didn't have the team comp to work. I think they had some idea that they were going to be able to land BRTT's Ash Arrow on top of an Equalizer, on top of Zyra stuff, and just kind of like give the world. But that's not how the game works. Like, it's very surprising that they tried this in such a big match when they'd had such success with dive compositions. And then they just flipped the switch and decided to do this.
I mean, it actually started off pretty well for them, to be fair. You know, in the middle, they managed to get Mazarine heavily ganked?
Yeah, so I mean, the laning phase works out. I think one of the reasons so many mids have fallen in love with double AD compositions is because in their world, they're just like, yeah, I have so much freedom in the mid lane with Ezreal. I lane great, I out-harass people, and I'm ungankable.
Yeah.
Fantastic, I love this. But then as soon as they get into the teamfight phase, it becomes a little bit more of a problem because you realize, wait a minute, all those things that normally protect me, or all those ways I normally initiate and blow up the enemy squishies, I can no longer do because I'm on Ezreal and my team doesn't have tanks.
And let's talk about that top lane, because Venon's performance on Rumble is, without being too harsh, pretty questionable.
And he's actually had, I mean, looking back, fairly questionable performances this whole tournament. In the semifinal against Dark Passage, not to take anything away from Fab Fabulous, but Fab Fabulous was destroying Venon that entire time. In one game, kill versus Malphite, he was up like 215 to 100 minion kills. On Kha'Zix, we saw the pentakill that he actually got because he had such a strong laning phase and then carried on. And what Pain needs to do, in my opinion, when we get to what Gaming Gear's done in a second, is basically just pick better compositions that fit them. Venon isn't the strongest laner, so he has to pick teamfight initiation champions to let the other guys get going.
Let everybody else get going. So we had a replay lineup for you guys. Let's get moving into that one because it was all about the team fight. I can't even think where it was now.
Yeah, so basically this is an example of why Gaming Gear's composition worked.
Right.
It's basically, this came right after Pain blew a bunch of ultimates to essentially do nothing to Gaming Gear because Gaming Gear just straight up avoided it. And now Gaming Gear decided that, oh yeah, by the way, we want to get fighting. And as Kobe pointed out multiple times, Mazarin had an amazing game. And this is really what started it. But not only when we see this fight, it's a very short clip. So when we see the shockwave go out, how easily and quickly it's followed up by Gaming Gear because they had so much strong initiation and tanks in their composition. Let's just roll this clip right now. You can see he catches 3 with the shockwave, and immediately Jarvan and Renekton can just go in. They didn't even land a crescendo. Renekton didn't even get his dice to be damaged, but they still picked up 2 clean kills off of that because they just had such strong initiation, and Pain had nothing to counter it.
How do they turn this around? They've got a couple of minutes between the break to gather themselves back together, figure out what they're going to do, because Gaming Gear came into this one with a clear idea. I mean, I think when Mazarin got Orianna, his eyes were lighting up already. I can't believe they've let me have this again.
And we have to realize that Gaming Gear is getting stronger and stronger as this tournament progresses. Their very first game against Dark Passage was tough, and they barely pulled ahead when they had the pause and had to restart. Then they only lost 1 game all tournament, and that was to Pain, and that was a close one. They're the only team to 2-0 in the semifinals, and we've kind of been writing them off because we've been thinking, oh yeah, Pain's the favorite. Oh, Immunity, they really understand the game. Like, Gaming Gear they're the ones winning games, and we have to start thinking about that. 1 more and they're in.
Just saying, they're running European style. You know, that's the main thing. They have practiced against a lot of the European teams. Do you think that's given them the benefit of the doubt, the experience that they've maybe gained here because they're in more developed scene?
I mean, at least at the moment, since they do have access to all those developed players and developed scenes, yeah, I think it's giving them a bit of an edge because we look at a team like Pain right now who seems to have just immediately lost their identity, whereas Gaming Gear has been picking at least fairly similar things throughout, and I think that was a huge benefit to them and has been throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they used to be known, Gaming Gear used to be known as Colon 3 in Europe, if anyone remembers them way back. I remember casting them, God, 2 years ago, back in Go for LOL days. You know, obviously, it's a couple of different players there, but it's effectively the same team. They've been Gaming Gear for about a year. So these guys have been around for a long time. They've got a lot of experience, and maybe that's paying out. So, guys, we've got to take a quick break, but when we return, Pain Gaming looks to take revenge on Gaming Gear. They need just 1 more game to earn themselves a trip to the World Championships in Los Angeles. Plus, Gaming Gear's manager, Arnold. Oh, this one's going to be a tricky one. Krasinkas. Sorry, Arnold. It's not even on Arnold. It's Arnoldas. Thanks for putting the names like that in there. I prefer just to take a nickname. That would be a lot easier, of course. But he's going to be joining Shocks. I'm just going to say the manager will join Shocks. So to break us down, of course, the team's dominant performance, because they have had a very good dominant performance. They went 2-0 against Immunity as well. Stick around, guys. We're going to be back in 3.5 minutes.